Sao Miguel is just a tiny stroke of a painting brush on the planisphere, a point on a globe. How can such a place harbor anybody in spite of the ocean threat on the houses and life? These are the cliffs which safeguard the island, the walls that protect it from vanishing into the sea, and the many remaining volcanic cones stand as memories of the volcanoes that built it. Welcome to the Green Island. Do not let humidity surprise you. Sao Miguel owes its second name from the intense color made possible by such humidity. Also, do not be alarmed by the high pressure, usually reaching 1,030 millibars of the anticyclone, the one that protects most of Western Europe from eastern storms. Human presence may complete the natural landscape or deform it. Here, harmony still reigns, although the abundance of pastures represents a risk for the ecological balance. But cattle raising for milk and meat production is the island's main source of wealth after several past predominant economic cycles, such as wheat, pastel, plant used for dyeing, and oranges. By mid-20th century, Sao Miguel had almost twice the population of 130,000 inhabitants it has nowadays. Many of them in such large families that the home space was hardly enough to fit everybody. Houses so small, one could get a whole glance at them at the door. As times changed, so did the way of life. Immigration, Azorian's main collective drama, stirred many emotions, but it also helped the development of today's relative wealth. People live better, and the increasing number of visitors is warmly welcomed. Because the growth of the island's reputation is notorious, according to the accounts of those who visit. Get ready to be amazed. 750 square kilometers of land waiting for you in a natural landscape full of surprising niches. At every road turn, at the top of each hill, one can climb without much effort. Everything changes, everything is new, everything unfolds as a continuous invention of variations on the same theme or unexpected explosions of the absolutely unique. This is an island you'll fall in love with, a place where your senses will definitely come alive. This isn't anymore the space Domingos Rebelo, the greatest island painter, left imprinted on the nostalgia of his piece The Immigrants. This is the time Tomás Vieira, another great contemporary master, inscribed on his replica of that masterpiece, The Return of the Immigrants. Because it wasn't just that the immigrants started returning. Before that, the world echoes, signs of other worlds, came with the urgency of modernism. Where we now stand, there once was the sea, with the harbor right by the city gates, which had to move back in order to keep faking their existence. This is a place where the Portuguese kings Peter IV and Charles I and other historical figures sat on shore. In 1917, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, then Under-Secretary of the United States Navy, negotiated the use of the Ponta Delgada harbor for the installation of a naval basis to support American troops on their way to Europe. He would later emphasize how that structure had been more important for the war victory than the poorly equipped and badly prepared Portuguese military force that would sacrifice itself with honor but almost without any benefit in the Flemish death fields. In the space conquered from the ocean, the ideas of architectural progress, at times contrasting and some other times in total disharmony with the memories of the old 16th century city, kept occurring to the point of wiping out all the ancient historical traces. Therefore, maybe one should just listen to the appeals of the serene waves without questioning them about the lost stones. From a visit to an unknown land, what's left are the memories of images, smells, sounds. A piece of local handicraft or a postcard might help perpetuate these memories. The Ponta Delgada marketplace is like a textbook of the fruits of the land. A mix of temperate zone with a tropical flavor, these islands are like a greenhouse where there are conditions to grow both the nutritious banana and the exotic yam, a root named after an African word which means food. There are those who claim the Sao Miguel pineapple is the best in the world. Its production process is, without a doubt, the most arduous of all the agricultural jobs in the island. Besides the need for greenhouses, which have to be properly maintained, the soil is to be covered with something like a vegetable blanket to facilitate the heating conditions, or carry out fumigations so that all the plants blossom at the same time, not to mention other artifices used in a process which is an art in itself. Finally, after 1 year of constant care, the Fruit King is ready to exhibit its pine sense, the perfume par excellence, in Tupi Guarani, and the flavor that amazed Columbus. These geographical accidents, caused by the fall of a crater on itself, are called calderas, a name which has become universal in scientific language. The caldera of Sete Cidades is certainly one of the most prodigious in the world. A few years ago, a young visitor, ecstatic in the presence of such legendary beauty, did not have the nerve to photograph it. He felt that no picture could reproduce a glimpse of its splendor. He'd rather keep it in the archives of his memory. And maybe he was right. In the Sete Cidades massif there are many ponds, spread like a series of repetitions, with the gracefulness of miniatures, of the theme that dominates the valley, which still echoes the legend of the prince's tears and the shepherd whose love was impossible. Aside from lifting off, a trip through the mountain ridge is the closest thing to a flight adventure. Sometimes the lava surpassed the portion of the island already built and threw towards the sea other fragments in a landscape architecture of volcanic mountain coastal areas of extraordinary beauty, with fertile land and easy access to the sea. With streams of water in abundance for the people, animals and windmills, Those locations had the ideal conditions for the birth of a new village. Therefore, among the oldest villages are those which emerged in places such as this one, mosteiros, monasteries, whose name, according to tradition, derives from the convent-like appearance of the islets which break the monotony of the ocean around it. A meeting with the past? Perhaps. But we do lack the imitation of the tranquility of these big and tame animals, or the calm of the road crossed by a horse without any hurry. And we just have to contemplate them to pacify the urgency of having but one life to live. The most important fishing village in the Azores, Rabo de Peixe, is also an abundant land. Its blessed soil produces a great quantity of good quality vegetable garden and farm delicacies. Its people follow traditions which are a delight for the participants and are quite puzzling for social phenomena investigators who try to find explanations for everything that keeps happening without knowing their real origin. Always the sea of all challenges and adventures, of secular and present history, the only element which always recovered from any cataclysm. Ribeira Grande became a town in 1507 by decree of King Manuel I and is the seat of a municipality which borders the remaining 5 in the island. For many years it was called Town City until it was promoted to the category implicit in that title. Some houses and secular monuments are living proof of its importance through the times and the nobility of its residents, with special reference to the Nossa Senhora da Estrela Hat Church, one of the largest and most beautiful Azorean temples, the City Hall, and the Baroque church which belonged to Misericordia. The passion fruit plant is a bush which reaches high proportions. Its flower, also known as passion flower, due to its color and the Passion of Christ symbols supposedly represented in it, emanates a soft scent and has a delicate beauty. Passion fruit flavor resists anything that may be done with it. From the well-known Licor de Whiskyel, the first famous alcoholic beverage in Sao Miguel, to refreshments, cakes, or any kind of cookies. Mulher de Capote, a factory owned by Eduardo Ferreira, alludes to a typical garb which was still worn by island women after the first half of the 20th century. This form of garment could both hide the attractive bodies and even the faces of rich ladies, and covered similar beauty and the worn-out clothing of the poor. One should not trust those who try to explain Azoreans' faith, confusing it with the fear of earthquakes and volcanoes. However, Lent pilgrimages, the most impressive religious manifestation in these islands, which consist of a 8-day journey through Sao Miguel, with praying stops in all of the churches where the Virgin is venerated, seem to have their origin on the appeal to divine protection after the earthquake and landsliding that caused the destruction of most of Vila Franca do Campo. A warm water brook called Caldera Valley, waters it under the shadow of old trees. Was the world like this in the beginning? The same internal fire of the earth, which warms up Caldera Valley, produces the steam for electricity from that geothermal energy. Magma didn't just create these islands. Nowadays it has the capacity to be an inexhaustible source of energy, with hardly any consequences in terms of environmental pollution. How is it possible to reach the apex of beauty with just water and rough and abrupt slopes. Perhaps because at Lagoa do Fogo, silence is an essential part of the landscape. Normally, the classification of an object as a work of art depends on the fact of having been created with no utilitarian purpose. But often a simple ceramic plate may be an artistic piece. Cerâmica Vieira in Lagoa is one of several ceramic factories specialized in the production of artistic objects of use. Crustaceans are one of the most appreciated tastes of the varied abundance of sea fauna in Sao Miguel. Besides the species, easily identified by anybody, the uncommon rock barnacles, which resemble plain stone pieces extracted from the rocks at low tide, being probably the least known, are also those that carry more faithfully an exquisite sea flavor. The watchman's eyes do not search the sea anymore to launch a death sentence on the whales. The ancient battle between man and the cetaceans, which mitigated the poverty of thousands of Azorians from all the islands during more than a century, was replaced by a maritime version of the safaris for the observation of wild animals. Several whale-watching companies lead tourists to meet whales and sperm whales, or flocks of dolphins, of which there are several species, commonly known as tuninhas. And if the size of a sperm whale makes its presence a grandiose spectacle, the company of docile